also R4 in the R2.1 track, the racing track. It's incredible. Like, I'm not sure if we can stream it. Maybe I'm putting you on the spot, Dom. I don't think we can, but people can see it in the chat.
Yeah, I would do the chat, because then we'd need to get like 4 people to stream it.
Yeah. So you guys can see it in the chat. Look at that run. Like, what the main highlight for me is when he goes from checkpoint 7 to 8. How he has that turn, like, you can see he practiced that one. Like,
I mean, he's almost as good as me, right? Like, very close. Almost.
Yeah. I think you will need to.
Don't get so quiet, man. Don't get so quiet.
If you're this good, bro. Yeah, I don't think so, bro. You know I love you, man, but this is next level, man. People are asking for proof on you. Next brew, you come here, you stream it, and you do that, bro.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. In less than 18 seconds. They say you're not pro gamer, pro speaker only. Yeah, it's incredible, guys. So go check it out. We posted it in the Atlas Brew chat. Go check out the run, because that's quite incredible. And then the last noteworthy news before we hop on the main topic is, of course, we had the R4 transition. So I know, Dom, you maybe want to give a quick recap on what happened?
Yeah, exactly. Just before we get to Chris and Eric, just want to give a quick recap, because this is the star of the show today. So for anyone who is listening to a recording, or anyone who's joining us who doesn't know exactly what the R4 transition is, R4 is basically the 4 resources that we were selling in infinite supply on the Galactic Marketplace. That's food, fuel, ammunition, and toolkits. So we switched from an infinite supply to a 30-day supply. It is now sold out, and now it's player-driven. With the implementation of a player-driven economy to R4, there's a couple measures that the econ team put in place. Measure 1 was claim stakes had their R4 emissions increased. And then measure 2 was Sage escape velocity had R4 emission increase as well. So it's a lot easier to get R4. And the switch to the R4 player-driven economy is super exciting, super interesting. So I'm ready to kind of get into it with the econ team here. So I'll introduce you guys. Chris, Eric, how you guys doing?
Doing well.
Real well.
I just won in the Garctic phone game. I don't know if I actually won, but I definitely. There's a lot of blanks, so I think I'm winning. That's my interpretation.
Nice. So you were playing Gartic with the community while we were doing the intro?
Yeah, dude, I don't even know why I'm here. What did you guys say?
Yeah, come for the econ chat, stay for the community, you know? And Eric, man, how are you, my friend?
I'm awesome, man. I'm awesome. I'm excited to be here. Dom, you built us up pretty darn big here, man. What was your words? Like the best, most excited, something like that. So we'll try to deliver here.
Yeah.
This is a big change. This is a huge change. So yeah, I am massive. I'm looking forward to what you guys have to say. We're ready to go. I think we've got some questions. I think you guys had prep for us, and Chris and I will back and forth on it and just discuss and go from there.
Yeah, we have a couple questions prepared just to set the stage, but I think we can get started for sure. So I have one here, guys, just to do kind of like a recap on, and I know this was asked to you guys, and you replied also in the foundation room before, but this is a question that we wanted you to also answer here in the brew, and it's what went into the decision-making process of transition to a player-owned economy for the R4. How did you come to that decision?
Sure. So I'll start with like maybe a long-term answer, then Chris can kind of get into some of the details of recent stuff. So last year, obviously, was Stephen and I in the econ department first, and one of the first questions that I tackled was how the heck are we going to change this from what's the score economy, the faction fleet, into a market-driven economy, which is our goal for everybody. Especially since people started off with this back then, and then the market changed completely as we were having those discussions. So it became this process of constantly looking for when we feel comfortable that the market, meaning our internal players um, and the actual changes could happen in a way that would not be completely disruptive. But what I will say is, Chris and I both had a lot of stress going into last week, as you could probably imagine if you were in our shoes. We had done our work. You can you're going to launch a rocket, but you've done all the work. You think it's going to go, and you think you've done everything you can, but you know that there's going to be something, right? There's going to be little things, and so we went forward last week with lots of nerves and but a lot of faith because of a lot of, and I'll kind of revisit some of the things I said in the foundation room. You know, uh, FTX last year taught us a lot about our community, taught us a lot about the people who are in this room, the 214 or 15 now I'm watching in this room that are friends of ours that want this game to succeed. We have the exact same goal as you. We have to make these tough calls. The toughest, discussion um, was, whether to cold turkey, cut off, or I mean, we'll get a little bit into this, or to announce it and then have like, okay, it's wide open on this, and so we'll get to that. But the community taught us a ton about their commitment to where we're going. The iterative approach of this year, in my opinion, gave me a lot of confidence to watch everybody participate, and not just participate at a small level, participate at a high level, to meet us where we said this would help us to continue to develop this economy. You guys showed up and delivered, where there was never alone, whether it was 2.1, whether it's coming things with the DAO and back and things that will be the next iterations of Sage. Our confidence level and your commitment to this is very high. We understood that it was you all are playing the game higher level intensity than I don't want to say than I expected, but at a level that I am very happy with. So that gives us the confidence to say, okay, if we're going to make this the game that we all want to play, it's got to be an iterative approach. We've got to do some big things like this transition to R4, and put it in your hands. If we put it in your hands, then we get closer to that free market that everybody wants to play that game. So that's a long way of putting it. Just how we got here. It's a compliment back to you guys that we felt like you were ready for this. And then I'll ask Chris to kind of go through some of the minor or major details that we studied and discussed internally before we felt like, okay, balance is right.
Yeah. So the game already started. That's what you're saying, Eric.
The game has started. There's no doubt about it. I think a lot of people have been playing it. It's not been as active, right? It's not been what even it is today compared to 2 weeks ago, compared to before 2.1, compared to before EV. And this iterative approach, I'm a very big fan of. I think it brings to us these hints of where we're going, and so it's so much easier for a community right along with us and to keep interested. The interest level is at all-time highs. We've looked at the numbers. You guys are really engaged. Whether we're mad at us for the 24-hour supply of what we thought would be 30 days lasting 10 hours, you're at least engaged, and that was not intentional. We will talk about that a little bit, but the engagement level was high. It was definitely high.
Yes, yes, sir. I think Chris, you want to comment a little bit on it? So. Do we still have Chris with us here?
Chris, you're muted.
Sorry, I was
Lane game's
double
good, huh?
muted. I was muted on both my microphone and my Discord, so
Yeah.
not a chance in hell.
Not a chance.
No, I was saying, this R4 transition is like one small piece of a huge puzzle, and we're coming out with the next iteration of Sage, and that's going to happen, and with it comes a bunch of new changes, and then once we come out with the version after that, a bunch of other changes are going to happen, and eventually we're going to kill score. Right, we're going to transition from like the score economy, which is not that interesting, to a fully fledged MMORPG economy. That's gonna be on the level of EVE Online, and maybe even beyond that. So to say that this is like this one and done kind of like, oh, okay, the R4 transition is over, is completely, one of the things I'm working on right now is like, for the next iteration of Sage, how do we make sure that we're maintaining the score R4 economy? So it's something that's going to be an ongoing process. So the initial, the initialization of that went well. I really don't think like anything could have gone much better. I'm definitely more on the side of like actually the quantity that we put into the DAO or to sell out the 30 days. Like I'm actually like very happy with how that did, and it was well within my expectations. Like I kind of differ from the team a little bit. I anticipated you guys buying that real fast, because remember, it was 30 days of supply for score. It wasn't supposed to last 30 days on the market. So big difference. Now, were there some slight things we would have done differently? Perhaps there were, but I was very excited to see like just how active the economy is. We've seen R4 sales in the secondary increase, of course. We've seen a really kind of an interesting, uh, and I know I'm not really going into the methodology of how we went about it, but just like some of my initial thoughts here. We are seeing some really interesting stuff on the market for R4, and I just find it really fascinating, because like we know what's going on the back end, or I guess in the background, and we kind of see the market behavior and kind of like the player behavior, and it's really fun to see that, um, to see that play out. And I'm really looking forward to the market kind of finding the equilibrium over the next several months, or several weeks. So it's really, really cool to finally see like an actual market. This is like everybody said, and I'm not saying anything unique here, but like this is the first step towards a real economy. And the way I see it is, now the next thing that needs to go is Atlas, right? Like where Atlas emissions right now in score are constant, but as you all know, and as you've all seen in the Sage manuals, it's not going to be constant. It's going to be dependent on your performance. It's going to be dependent on your abilities and your skills in Sage. So to me, that's the next big thing that's going to happen. But it's really, really been satisfying to see this transition. Just a huge success in our eyes, and I think that the community reflects that.
Yeah,
Methodological.
Oh no,
Oh,
go
yeah,
for
sorry.
it. I thought you were done. Go for it.
No. You had asked me, like what went into the actual, transition, and I never even really talked about that. So we can move on to the next question, or I can give you guys some flavor. So I had answered a question, I think yesterday in the foundation room, about like how did we actually do it. So on the actual like low, on the ground level, there were some very complicated things that had to happen. The very first thing I'll say is like, we have the score demand for R4. We know how much demand there is for R4 in the score economy on a daily basis. We also have, the score supply pre the change, right? We had all this like supply that we were producing in escape velocity and through claim stakes, and I think we had about 10% coverage of the score demand before the change. meaning about 4.5% was coming from escape velocity and 5% was coming from claim stakes. And we essentially set ourselves an objective that said, okay, well, we know what these are covering right now. We need to get to a coverage threshold. And I won't reveal what that coverage threshold was, but we had to get to this coverage threshold in order for us to be happy and comfortable with turning off the unlimited tranche of R4. So we basically had two different problems to solve. First was the escape velocity problem. The second was the claim stakes problem. The escape velocity problem was much more straightforward in that we were able to basically just, look at escape velocity production. Escape velocity production is constant across like player. The only thing that changes in your productivity of escape velocity is the quantity of fleets you have. So this is really convenient linear scaling. So what we were able to do was we were able to say, okay, let's boost all of the escape velocity production by X. So ammo goes up by X times. Toolkits goes up by X. And what I mean by that is every single time one of those resources drops, you get its multiplier. So instead of dropping 10, you drop 100. Or instead of dropping 50, you drop 500. And then we also tried to account for, we did an event study, and we tried to account for the expected change. So what I mean by the expected change in employment at Sage. So right now, we had, I think before the change, we were looking at about, like at the peak of the day, 350 to 400 concurrent users in Sage. That's a lot of scanning, but when we implement a new change like this, we have to expect that that employment level is actually going to increase. So we did an event study for both the past two surge events, and we basically said, okay, this is the expected change in employment we're going to see in Sage. Let's account for that in our calculations. So let's account for the fact that, once we make this change, employment levels in Sage are going to increase by 50%. And we've pretty much seen that, which is really satisfying. We've also seen employment intensity increase by almost 100%. So we've seen just like a huge dedication from the players to the Sage economy. And so that was one of the things we had to do, is we had to both anticipate the reaction from the community to the change, as well as estimate the increase in production of the change. The claim stakes was much more complicated, and I don't want to really waste too much more of our time going over that. But I'm happy to talk about how that worked methodologically. I think it's important to, I think it's cool to communicate these types of methodologies after the fact to the community. But yeah, claim stakes were a lot more complex because claim stakes differ by both ownership, price, productive capabilities, and tier. All these different things kind of make the problem more complex.
Cool. I'm just going to take 1 second. There's been a lot of people asking for the never alone password. I'm going to type it in the chat right now, and I'm going to say it out loud, and then we'll get to the second question. So the never alone password is player-owned economy. If you guys go to Zeely and put that in the quest, you will get your XP. Okay, I'm gonna keep this going. Awesome, Chris. I mean, sounds like the transition went pretty well in your eyes, and outcomes were well within your expectations. So that's great to hear. Eric, I'd love to hear from you as well. How do you think the transition went?
It went well. I think it went phenomenally. Actually, if I'm completely honest, I mean, like I said, I don't think the only hiccup we had was the supply, and where Chris thought it was going to go fast, I thought it would be 24 hours at least. So, um, you know, his estimation was a little bit better. Um, the other thing that I want to mention in here is EV is a temporary product, guys. We all know it's to be a test. It is a test of our system. It is a test of the servers. It has taught us immense amount for the engineering folks. They have figured out our system works when pressed. Things that you just cannot do. It's like we've revved the engine of our motor, and we know where it's good and where it's bad. Okay, that's going to help us with the next iterations and making everything more stable, more fun, because we've tested it. And that's another back to you guys. But it did give us this, Chris talked about this increase that we did in EV, when you were to land on an ammo, how much you would get. Now, we have that temporarily as almost like a lever, guys, if we needed it. We're not using it currently as a lever, but we do have that. So it gave us this opportunity to say, okay, we wanted to make sure the supply stayed solid enough, but it also depends on human behavior. Like, you just have to go play to get this, and then to put it back in the market, you have to make all these decisions. So we wanted ourselves to have a little bit of buffer. This time era, we had, I would say, Michael had been doing a great job in his current role of explaining how things would be going without saying exactly what was going to happen. In the last few town halls, Santi had even called him out a couple of times. So, but he did a good job, I thought, of doing it in a way where people would understand that changes were coming. You should be ready, but not saying, "Hey, go buy 3 years worth of, the R4," because that R4, then the economy's no fun, right? Everybody already has it. It's saturated. It's why play, right? So that was one of our big concerns. Anyway, EV with claim stakes, gave us a proper time to iterate the economy and mature it towards the next iterations that we'll continue to do. To back up what Chris said, this is the first. This is not the last. This isn't like, I think turning off score will probably be even more impactful in the future. Based on it's been here since the very beginning like that too. So anyway, that's I'll stop there.
Yeah, man. It's just the beginning of the transition of this whole economy to players' hands, right? And as you were saying, Eric, if you were paying attention, like it was quite. I wouldn't say easy, but you were able to connect the dots on how everything was going to transition. Yeah, the chief leaks officer made a good job at that, of course, as always.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here's a question, guys, that we have been getting from the community. There's a lot of people who are interested in the claim stakes gameplay. So wanted to ask you guys, related to the economy, how important are claim stakes going to be in the future for the Star Atlas gameplay and economy?
I'm going to say very, and I'm going to say, Chris, why don't you take this one?
Yeah. So the claim stakes are actually the primary productive, entities in the economy. There will be a special class of ship, or not class, but a special type of ship that will be able to also take on that mining role. But for the most part, most of the resource extraction will happen through claim stakes. Now, when I say claim stakes, I mean the entire mining operation. A claim stake is a plot of land, and the mining drill and the power station and the space station and the power plants are all necessary for that entire system to work. So, ships, right? Their main economic value, it's twofold. First of all, they have their economic use case, whether it's a freighter or a combat or this mining rig, this mining ship that I was just talking about. Ships have their utility case, and then they have, of course, their Atlas earnings potential. Right now in Score, that's fixed, but in Sage, one of the main ways you'll get LP, which gives you Atlas, is through combat, right? So ships have like this kind of a much more utility focus. So you could potentially make Atlas through going and destroying somebody's ship and collecting our resources and trading that into the marketplace. But the productive side of things, creating these assets, that's primarily going to be done through mining operations. So through claim stakes. So claim stakes are kind of this like main product that we sell that allows people to get access to the resource economy. Right now, claim stakes have functionality in Score purely because we really wanted to give something to the players before, in the meantime, while we're fully, operating these things. Claim stakes, one, I guess, difficulty with respect to claim stakes and this transition is that it really, really makes people focused on claim stakes production of R4. But claim stakes, especially like you think about tier, the higher tiers that are going to have these incredible productive capabilities, they're going to be focused on rare resource extraction. They're going to be focused on, you know, creating these massive operations. I could be completely wrong, but I don't anticipate that some of these, like, I don't anticipate that the vast majority of claim stakes in Sage, you know, in the future, are going to be devoted towards R4 production. I think that will probably be a smaller part of the production economy, and claim stakes are actually going to be used to produce starbase upgrading materials and, you know, consumable items, and even, you know, someday maybe depending on how we, you know, we structure things, you know, even asset production. So claim stakes are a much bigger thing than R4. They have R4 functionality right now, and we've tried to make it so that their production of R4 is matched up with the score economy, which is a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit awkward because claim stakes are going to be productive in the Sage economy.